So now without further delay, let's begin today's event in partnership with Accountingfly and hosted by Accounting Today. It's my pleasure to introduce your moderator for today, and that is Jeff Phillips. Jeff, you have the floor.
Greg, thank you so much for having us, and thanks to everyone on the call to kick off Advance 15. This is really exciting. We have been it's been a year really since we had the last virtual career fair for the accounting profession. So you're sitting in the very beginning of the largest career fair in our industry. My name is Jeff Phillips. I'm with Accountingfly, and I thank you for being a part of this event. I want to thank our partners at Accounting Today as well for helping us spread the word about this important session. So, and I want to thank you for joining. We're going to be talking about, in this session, career paths, and some career paths in public accounting that you in the audience may not be as familiar with, and we're going to discuss a lot of the unsung benefits that you need to know about, and I'm convinced that you need to know about them because I work and our team works with these types of firms on a daily basis. And when we talk about public accounting firms, sort of beyond the career, beyond the Big Four, they are in fact incredible places to work. We're going to have some Q&A at the end. As Greg mentioned, you have a Q&A panel that you're welcome to use, and I will moderate those questions as we get towards the end. If you are actively looking for a new job, or if you're not actively looking but you're just interested in learning about what's out there, then please join Advance, the virtual career fair, after this call. It starts as soon as this call ends, and it's not too late to register. You can register at any point in time. So at the end of this meeting, we'll give you a link to register, and you have until the end of the career fair to join. So it runs from 1 to 5 Eastern Time today. We've got 75, roughly, accounting employers. They come from about 35 states and a couple of national employers. It's a really neat program where you can do chat interviews. The employer's on the other end of the internet looking at your resume and having a chat with you. You get about 10 minutes to interact with the employer. It's just a great opportunity to learn. Even if you're not on the job market, there's going to be firms that are just like the 3 you're about to hear about with the exact same sizes, and you want to get to know them. So take advantage of it. Now, this topic today is important, and I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I want to bring you guys in here. But first I want to tell a story. I was speaking to a recent college grad. She's going to one of the Big Four. She graduated from University of Maryland, where 2 of our panelists are very close to. And I asked her if during recruitment did she interview with any regional or local CPA firms, and she said no. I said, okay, well, I asked her if any smaller firms came to her campus at all. Okay, and she said, yeah, one small firm did come to our campus, and that was Cohn-Resnick. And if you don't know who Cohn-Resnick is, they're the 10th largest public accounting firm in the U.S. So this in sort of captures our problem. If you're an accounting student or you're a CPA and you're interested in making a career move, you may not know about local and small and regional firms, and there are a lot of them. They're great places to work. Lucrative benefits that you don't know about, leadership opportunities that abound, ownership opportunities in the future that you need to know about. So what we've done is assembled 3 of the very best in our business to give you their stories, why they have chosen to work in small or local or regional firms. And we have, and they are the leaders or an owner of each of these 3. So varying sizes of firms from our panelists. Along the way, we're going to do polling questions and that you'll need to answer to get CPE and to help guide our session as well. So I'm going to get started and just briefly introduce each one of our panelists as we go here. So first up is Jeffery Capron. Jeff, you're the managing partner at Aronson. You founded a boutique accounting firm, served as its managing partner before merging with Aronson, which is one of the top 100 firms in the U.S. based in the Washington, D.C. area. Devotes his time to energy and recruiting the best and brightest at every level. As you can see, Jeff's a CPA, has a bachelor's degree from Bucknell and a JD from George Washington. Jeff, thanks so much for being on today's call.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Also, we have Charles Postal. Charles is managing partner of Santos Postal and Company. And Charles has worked there since 1986, or has provided leadership since 1986, and works with his brother Merle. And I think we're going to probably hear some good stories about the fact that you get to work with your brother Charles. Charles is a CPA and holds a BS from the University of Maryland. Charles, welcome and thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here and help these students and prospective candidates to help find a career for them.
Thanks so much, Charles. And lastly, Chris Farmand. Chris is out of Jacksonville, Florida, and is the owner of Chris Farmand and Company, CPAs. You can see there Chris had an early career as an actor, and after graduated from the University of Florida, came back into a family business where he now runs his accounting firm. Lives in Jacksonville, like I said, has an MBA from North Florida. Chris, we are so glad you're here, and I can't wait to hear your story about your small niche firm. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. And last technicality that I'm going to get out of the way. It is that this is a CPE bearing webinar. You can see there it's eligible for CPE. In order to get it, you need to answer the polling questions and stay on for the entirety of the call. This CPE is provided through Accounting Today Source Media. Okay, so we want to know a little bit about who's on the call before we get going. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the first polling question and ask that you just give us an idea of where you're at in your career. And what do you mean if you're an accounting student, or if you have 0 to 2 years of accounting experience, 2 to 7 years of accounting experience, 7+ years of accounting experience. We'll take about 20 seconds to answer that. While we're doing that, just a quick question just around the horn for the panelists. One of the categories here is accounting student. I know that we probably have a lot of students on the call. So just quickly down the row, do you offer internship programs at your firms? And Jeff, I'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. Yes, we do. We have summer internships, winter internships. Those are usually offered to students who go to school locally. We also have an externship program for the internship programs are usually for some people who are about a year away from graduation, and we've now started an externship program for candidates that are 2 years away from graduation.
Charles, what about your firm?
Each year we have about one intern that we'll bring on board, usually somebody that has some accounting courses in college going into their junior or senior year, and we're looking for ones that are open to looking at a non-Big Four firm as part of their career path.
Thanks, Charles. Chris, what about you guys?
Absolutely. We do. We definitely have internship opportunities and look for that junior who is in an accounting track to give them experience at a local smaller firm and kind of get their dip their toes into many pools.
Thanks, guys. Just wanted to try to plug internship and experience opportunities at your firms. Okay, so you can see the data here. Hopefully everybody sees the results slide. 70% of our audience are students, and then it's split fairly evenly between 0 to 2, 2 to 7, and 7+. Thanks, everybody, for answering the questions as well. All right, so let's dive in here to the presentation. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Just tell us about your career and kind of how you got here and how it relates to the topic today of careers, in public accounting. So Jeff, you go first.
Thank you. I think the caption here is careers beyond the Big Four, and my career has not involved a straight line like many others, and are the case. And so it's got a lot of pieces in it that are outside and beyond the Big Four. I graduated from college. I went to work for a short time for a Big Four firm, and I went to law school at night. When I got out of law school, I worked for a large law firm in the Washington, D.C. area for about 5 years, and then largely for lifestyle reasons. I had some young kids and a family, and my flexibility around my schedule wasn't very good. I started a small accounting firm, and I stayed at that firm for 25 years, leading it, and then 10 years ago merged it. We got up to about 20 people and merged it into Aronson. The primary motivators were that we were our clients were getting bigger and needed a little bit more than we could provide, and Aronson at 250 people provided a platform that was going to be obviously very good for our clients and for our employees. And so 10 years ago I joined Aronson, and then about 6 years ago I ended up being its managing partner, a real honor.
It's fantastic. Well, we're glad you're here. Charles, tell us about your career.
Well, I grew up in the D.C. suburbs and went to the University of Maryland. Always thought I was going to be a lawyer while I was in high school. I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, and when I asked him about what I should major in considering that I was going to be going into law, he said, well, think about accounting, because no matter what kind of law you teach, or even what kind of law you do, or even if you're a doctor, the accounting background will be coming very handy for you. So I majored in accounting, and I found out I really liked it. I kept with it. Before I knew it, I was offered a job with Arthur Anderson, and I worked there for 3 years. And I thought it was a fantastic experience. It just wasn't the platform that I could really felt comfortable in. I went to work for a smaller firm, local firm in Bethesda. Really caught on very well there. It was exactly the kind of things that I thought I could use my skills at. And a few years later, I joined up with my brother, whose firm had grown from just 3 small practitioners to about 10 people at the time, and that was back in 1986. And in 2003, my brother retired. I took over as the managing partner, and we're up to 40 people now and looking for growth. And we have an international presence with an affiliation that we belong to, and that's about where we are right now.
That's awesome, Charles. What is the affiliation that you guys are with, the international affiliation?
It's called NGI Worldwide.
Okay, NGI.
It's about 170 firms throughout the world, 24 of them in the United States, and it allows us to provide the resources of some of the larger firms out there, but still remain independently owned and operated, and operating right out of our local where we are now. So we really like that flexibility.
So, Chris, you're with a small niche firm, and you guys have a really interesting story. Tell us, and I'm going to be asking about the firm in particular, but you also have this career that has a lot of interesting twists and turns. Tell us about your background.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. I left college and chased an improv career in New York for about a year and realized that I just didn't have the stomach for it. So that's the acting part of it. Came back to Jacksonville and didn't know what I was going to do, so landed in the family accounting firm. Worked there for 7 years, where 8 months out of the year I would audit governmental and not-for-profit, and 4 months out of the year I'd do taxes. So I really got a feel of all parts of the accounting spectrum, traditional accounting spectrum. All along, my true heart passion was in accounting technology, systems, setup, empowering the customer, the client to really own their data and then use us as a resource to get valuable information out of that data. So in 2010, I launched my own firm and had a focus of accounting technology. Well, by that time, accounting technology really was no longer a differentiator. It was just a tool that if you didn't have it, we couldn't even have the first conversation. So I had really coached all my customers and all my new customers the importance of using technology. Meanwhile, I began working in 2010, I began working with a craft brewery here in Jacksonville, Florida. Quickly realized that this was a fast-growing industry, a lot of cash, a lot of capital that needed help. We run accounting firms. It's one service or product line. A brewery can be up to 5 different companies in one, and the mother-in-law or sister-in-law really can't cut it when it comes to all the compliance. So for the past 5 years, We have built a niche in the craft brewing and distilling scene. We currently serve 13 breweries and 1 distillery throughout the United States. It's me and 3 other bookkeepers that are doing the work, and I have contract cost accountants and contract tax accountants that come in from time to time. But yeah, they're no longer serving any other business other than someone in the craft alcoholic beverage space, and we're starting to get known more and more over that.
Now, the important question for you is, do you ever get free samples?
I do, but we also I also pay for it as well sometimes.
All right, fantastic. So now that we have a background on everybody, we're going to start digging into the size of firms. But before I do that, I want to ask the audience about. So 70% of the audience are currently working. Tell us, everybody out there, what. If you're working in a firm, what kind of firm do you work for? If you're working in a private company, give us the size of that. Under 15, 15 to 49, 15 to 250, and more than 250. So, and while you're answering that question, we'll give about 10 seconds. I know that, Charles, your firm has about 40, and when you said 40, that was 40 total staff. Is that right?
40 total people.
Jeff, what about Aronson? What's the total staff count there?
It's about 250.
250. All in your office, which is in it's
just
suburb
outside
of
Washington, D.C.
Got
right.
it. Chris, it's in Bethesda. Chris, what total staff count at your firm?
4. I have people here, and then I have 1 remote accountant in California.
Nice.
And yep.
Truly spanning the different sizes here. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this poll and see what the responses look like. All right, so roughly 40% are Chris working at a firm that's smaller, closer to your size, but a fairly large. Are actually half the call is at 50 or greater, which in our profession is a large firm. All right, thanks everybody for answering the questions. So let's move on, and we're going to talk about. Really about firm size. What makes your firm a great place to work? And guys, what we're looking for here is from the perspective of a job seeker, a candidate on the call, I really want to know what makes your size firm a great place to work. And as you tell your stories, keep that in mind. So, Chris, you just got done telling us about your firm and how you're in this niche play in the beverage industry. Talk about, you're a small niche play. Why is it a great place to work? Why is it a great place to have a career in your size firm?
Jeff, for me, it's always been about being heard and being a part of the team. So, and also diversification of skills. So, at a firm my size, it's all hands on deck. Everyone here is not pigeonholed in a task or a division, and even if I grew it to 20 or 30 people or 40 or 50 people, I would still have that same mentality as all hands on deck, and you're doing everything from reviewing reports, reviewing financial statements, to drafting IRS letters, to preparing tax returns, reviewing tax returns. It's a wide range of services that everyone. It keeps the day interesting and keeps you close to the client, keeps you close to the task at hand.
Yeah, so it sounds like in a small firm you are seeing the full spectrum of action in day to day, from serving clients to taking out the trash. Is that a fair statement?
Very fair.
But it feels entrepreneurial. I mean, it feels like it's a fun place and certainly a challenging place to be engaged, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love what I do. Since we've developed our niche, it's gotten a whole lot more fun. Not because the industry's fun or the product's fun, just simply for the fact that as we develop this specialty, our loyalty from our customers and our service offering is just organically growing. The other day, I placed a bookkeeper in one of my brewery clients in South Florida. Never would have done that for a dentist or a chiropractor that I served one off here or there. So they're looking to us as a full resource for back office help. And it's just we're getting new engagements every day, and it's we're just growing with this industry. It's great.
So Charles, let's talk about Santos Postal and Company. And your size, you said you're about 40 staff, right in that kind of large local, you call it right size space. It's a nice space, but what makes it a great place to work? What makes the size in particular a great place for someone to spend their career?
Well, first, we think that we're large enough to have the resources to attract interesting clients and projects, yet small enough to develop close relationships with both our clients and our co-workers. And we limit the amount of bureaucracy that we feel stifles innovation. We have minimal departmentalization, and that allows us to provide our staff with a diverse range of assignments in audit, tax, and advisory services. We definitely have more tax work than we have audit work, and that's very attractive to a lot of people out there. Many firms make people commit to whether they want to be in audit and tax, and they need more auditors and they need tax people. Our people come out right out of the box, and they're preparing tax returns, doing tax research, and they really like it. They always say that when they go to a party, nobody ever asks them advice on how to select a random sample, but they are often asked with their tax expertise, questions about their tax returns, and that makes them feel important in their peer group. So we also, that makes it, what we feel makes it attractive to work here is most of our clients are local, so there is almost no out-of-town travel. Everybody's home at night so that they can be with their family or their friends, depending on where they place their priorities. And we do a lot of the work inside our office, so there's not a lot of windshield time that people have traveling from site to site. And so people like it. They can have a better control over their life. And finally, we don't have massive billable hour goals that people have to worry about. Even in our busy season, we keep it quite reasonable. We realize that we could probably produce a lot more work than we do, but we would probably lose a lot of staff by doing that. So we try to keep it into a very family-oriented environment where people can know that that they can still have a career, but the career is only a part of their life, not their whole life, and there's still plenty of time for their family, for their community, and for their involvement in the profession and their hobbies and other activities that they want to be involved with.
Charles, it sounds as though if you're working at Santos Postal, you have opportunity to get exposure to a lot of different types of projects, and even maybe even some flexibility to get on a different, just see the wide range of projects. Am I picking that up correctly?
Yeah, you have a wide range of projects. You can go between different industries. And we do a wide range of industries. We have some specialties like in real estate, but we do a very traditional practice from the standpoint of a cross-section of the industries that are in our area we work on. They said that they might do a tax return one week. They might have a project in audit the next week. And they'll be working for different partners amongst our group. We have 5 partners, so you're not pigeonholed into just one person for your entire life, and that allows them to get a very diverse background, different ways of doing things, different places of advice. So it allows them a lot of flexibility, a lot of growth, and it brings everybody closer together as a team.
I love it. So, Jeff, tell us about Aronson, and you're a little bit larger in the top 100, but what makes the size special? What makes Aronson a great place to work?
First, before I get right into that, I think to place the conversation in context, my perception right now is that public accounting is at a very good time. It's a great profession to begin with, and the time is very good for public accounting firms. And I'm happy to be a panelist with Chris and Charles, because I think between the 3 of us, our firms represent 3, while very different choices, 3 very good choices as alternatives to, for example, the Big Four. Our firm, I think, is, as the largest of the three, but also as being in a single office, combines some attributes that I think are attractive, certainly to a number of people. One is we're big enough to give people meaningful experience and opportunity to specialize. So we have industries built out, service teams for industries. Chris mentioned how fulfilling it was for him when he started to develop the specialty that he's developed, and we think that it's a primary discriminator for clients in trying to select an accounting firm. So we have industries. We have a large industry commitment to government contract, and we also have real estate and construction and a commitment to the technology industry and the nonprofit industry and some others. But we also have a number of services that we provide. We have two systems practices, one pointed at the government contract space, one pointed at real estate and construction, and we have an M&A practice, a FINRA registered investment bank that does sell-side work, and we have a large forensic and valuation group, a wealth consulting group, and so on. So I think what emerges for people who get to know us and work with us is that the opportunity to have some control over their career destiny. Oftentimes, students, when they graduate, think they might want to pursue a career in public accounting. Maybe even they know the size and type of firm that they like, and they make a selection of basically audit or tax, and then as they get further into their career, they see that there's some refinement. And I think at our size, we have the ability to create the opportunity for control over the career destiny and to create an opportunity for meaningful choice. We also are quite committed to having a workplace that's worthy of attracting the kind of talent that we like. We've been named the best place to work in the Washington, D.C. area for 4 out of the last 5 years, I think. And I guess lastly, it probably is worth saying that the economics of public accounting practice in beyond the Big Four are very good, and you don't have to sacrifice income to work at that tier.
Jeff, I'm glad you bring it up, and I think that I think that it's important to hear that whether it's a small niche firm or a large firm, a regional firm, it's a lucrative career. And I'll leave it at that. But you have to trust me, and people are, as job seekers, investigate career paths. If that's a bias, if that's a concern, it should not be. Because it's a lucrative career path, and dozens of stories to back that up. And one of the things, Jeff, that I think is worth sort of pointing out is that no career goes in a straight line, including your own. And the theme I hear from all three of our panelists today is investigation. You may start off on one path, but there's some great career paths, and public accounting is in a fantastic spot right now. And just looking at public accounting across the industry is definitely worth investigating for your own career's sake. So I'm going to move on and kind of talk about the challenges of each one of the sizes firms, just a general sense of what makes it tough to work in your size firm. What are the challenges you might want a job seeker to know about up front before they get to know you and work in your firm? And Charles, I'll start with you. Just at your size, what are some of the challenges that you guys face?
Well, the biggest challenge that we face is sustaining our growth with getting qualified people to come in and be on our team. When we go to recruit every year, and we go to a lot of the smaller colleges, only because the bigger colleges, the University of Maryland is right up the street from us. But between the Big Four and the big regional firms, they'll come in and they'll scoop up every candidate they have there, and it's hard for even people to, when we go there, to recognize who we are and sign up for us. We're just we're small compared to them. But the way we address that challenge is we have a good word of mouth that goes around, that people know that we're a great place to work, especially local people. And people that are local in our community know who we are, and the ones that come here, that's one of the reasons they come here, is because they wanted to be local. They wanted to be able to have a family, to be involved in the community, and stay involved for place they grew up or the place that they really enjoy living in. And so that's one of the ways that we all set that challenge. And we have a lot of people that started out in the Big Four and that work for us, and they came here when they wanted to have a family, started raising children, because it's just easier when you're right up the street to be remote serving. It's easier to get home to go watch a soccer game with your kids. It's easier to just to run your life and have a more stable lifestyle for it. And so that's basically how we deal with that challenge.
Fantastic. And I wouldn't be surprised if you get a lot of word-of-mouth referrals of candidates recruiting new candidates into the organization. But I hope the audience hears the opportunity here that if a great firm like Charles, like Santos Postal, is their biggest challenge is finding great talent because they're growing. What an opportunity for talented people, high performers to come in and work.
Yeah, just like if I could just feed off of what Jeff said earlier about public accounting, the people that are out there listening in here today, they don't realize probably what opportunity they're looking at. There are so many firms out there that have so many openings for people that just have a little bit of initiative, that have an understanding of accounting. The world is at their fingertips here. There will be very little competition for them, and they'll have a great path, not just to be an entry-level accountant or a senior accountant, but the pathways all the way to the partnership level. And these firms put out a lot of training and development to their staff. They work as hard as the Big Four does, and it's more specialized to them. So in the Washington, D.C. area, for example, there are a lot of great firms, and they all say the same thing. Give us the people that are dedicated to a career in accounting. It might be a little bit of hard work, but if you love what you do and if you think you're good at accounting, it's a great platform, and there's very little competition for you. There's a big need out there for accountants, and all you have to do is investigate the alternatives that are available to you out there. Talk to not just the Big Four and not just the private industry, but investigate the smaller accounting firms and the local accounting firms and the regional accounting firms, and you'll be amazed at the opportunities that are there that have the same challenging work, they pay very well, and they have other alternatives to just the Big Four model on becoming a success.
I love it, and I completely agree. Like you said, even in a metro area like Washington, D.C., there's so much opportunity across the board. Chris, so you're in a small niche firm. If you were talking to someone thinking about starting a career in a firm like yours or coming on board your own firm, what are some of the challenges they need to know about going into it?
Sure. So, given our size, it's and I mentioned this before. It's all hands on deck is the way I describe it. And our firm is once again unique in a different way. Is that we don't bill by the hour at all. So we kind of smell and look and feel like a consulting firm, but have a very, very strong tax background. So the reality is, Jeff, it's just results. It's results, it's deadlines, and we have very little. We have no room for our firm in particular. We have no room for just sticking an associate in the back office and just letting them bill. So our onboarding experience is slower for customers. Our customer selection is slower because I have found I've experienced an unruly client just sucking the resources out of the firm. We don't have that at a small firm, and other small firms are probably going to have that same sentiment. So we are 100% results driven, and we don't have a dress code. We don't care the way you look. We just need the work done, and we need to continue to fulfill the mission of the firm, which is to get to our goal, our growth goal for the year of number of new breweries. And so I would just say, and then another risk of a small firm is that the size, right? So if you're coming from industry, or if you need a lot of humans around you and a lot of noise, a small firm is not going to be a good place for you. There's a lot of lonely days when the owner is traveling or your associates are traveling. So it's a very autonomous, self-starting work environment. Our office has zero drama, and I work with two women, so we just don't have time for drama, and so I hate to use the word lean, but we run lean, and we just get the work done. Everyone is compensated extremely well for what they do, and no complaints. So that would be the biggest thing I would say for a small firm would be size and sociability, and the priorities of the direction of the firm and the owner is going to be far different than a larger firm. Thanks.
Chris, how many remote employees do you have?
I have one remote employee, and I have one full-time cost accountant contractor. And then I have a tax contractor that only is tax season for me.
And
so you want to say,
remote.
Yeah. So I have two people in house. There's three people that are in this building, and then I have one full-time remote bookkeeper, accountant, and one, like I said, full-time cost accounting contractor, and one full-time. I shouldn't say full-time. I have one cost accounting contractor and one seasonal tax accountant.
Got it. And I would imagine that I think you told me you're even looking for more remote workers as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, as we grow, we serve people literally from Miami to Seattle. So our state and local needs are just through the roof. Our tax and really tax compliance help is needs are through the roof. But yeah, absolutely looking for remote help all the time.
So Jeff, let's talk about Aronson.
Sure.
So the challenges that you face, or challenges that high performers would face in a firm the size of Aronson's.
Sure. First of all, we're a business, and so we have all sorts of challenges. It's, as you know, each of the three of us know. But in the context of today's conversation, I think the anecdote that you opened up with about the young lady that you spoke to, who referred to Cohn-Resnick as a small firm, kind of highlights the level of misinformation or lack of information among candidates about the characteristics of their actual choices. And none of the firms of the three of us will have their logos on the hat of a golfer that'll be on TV, at the U.S. Open this weekend, and but still remain, I think, quite legitimate choices. And so the challenge that we have is to find an opportunity to provide the information to the candidates, and as well to the people in their schools, like professors and career officers who guide them, about the legitimacy of these choices beyond the big four, like the firms of my co-panelists here and our own. It's real simple. The future of each of our firms depends on the access and the ability to retain the right level of talent, and we have to find ways to meet and relate to the candidates and to give them the information. None of us are going to be right for everybody, and no one choice is right for all candidates, but we have a firm belief that we're right for the right number of people, and we just need to find them and make sure they have the correct amount of information.
Jeff, I would add on to what you just said, that I love that point. And in an industry with lots of employers, there's got to be a right fit for everybody. And I think that is the core of this presentation, right, is that there's different types of firms, even within what we would call the mid-market of public accounting, extremely different organizations. The trick is to find out what is right for you. And that's not always a straight line, as we've learned. So let's dive into this a little bit more about if you're talking to a young CPA who is still trying to figure out their career. Maybe they're in a private industry, or maybe they're in another firm, but trying to evaluate what their career path would be. And we've all been there. We'd like your take on what advice you'd give them. And Jeff, I'll start with you, please.
Okay, great. So we're talking about the opportunity to educate people about choice and so that they can make a meaningful evaluation. And I think one of the topics that we touched on right at the beginning, things like internships for us, are the high percentage shots. It's a no-risk opportunity for someone to come and work for a limited period of time in the firm to see if the kinds of things they get exposed to excite them, the kind of culture that the firm has is interesting and gratifying to them. And the flip side, of course, is that it allows us to have a better opportunity to learn enough about them, certainly more than you would get from a 30 or 40-minute interview slot. And so, taking advantage of the opportunities to, while you're still in school, to participate in some of these programs like internships and externships, I think are by far, in a way, the thing that we find that is most successful in breaking through the information barrier.
So Chris, what do you think? You've had a career that spanned from acting to owning a firm. How would you advise a young CPA to figure out their career path?
Can I start with a quick story on I can segue into this from a story? Go for it. So last November, I was at a career fair at UNF, and that's my alma mater for my MBA with a concentration in accounting, and thought I would find some awesome talent there. Well, I quickly identified that wasn't going to happen, simply for the fact of Jeff's point that I was not able to donate a computer lab or something else to the school. But I did talk to one candidate who, I thought she was a candidate, and ended up finding out she was the president of the accounting club, and this was in November, okay? In January, she had a internship. She was finished. She was going to graduate the following May. In January, she had an internship at E&Y, and in August, she started full-time at PwC, both in auditing. And this was last November. So when I began describing to her what we do, because we had a very unique booth there, imagine that, her eyes kind of just lit up. And I asked her, are you at least going to be in tax? She said, no, I'm going to be in audit. So I just said best of luck to her and got her LinkedIn information and said, let's stay in touch because I understand what she's about to go through and the lack of diversity that she's going to have at her job, is probably going to lead her into industry sooner than it should. With that being said, I advise people to just keep your eyes open and explore the local large option, the local regional option, the local small guy. Do you want to work in? Do you want to focus on a certain industry, or do you want to focus on a certain skill set? All these are important, really to ask. What is your work-life balance requirements? Do you have a hobby? Are you a traveling, a barbecue competition guy that's going to keep you, and that's what really makes you tick. You need to find an employer that's going to mesh with that. I have a colleague in Alaska who has a very valuable employee, but she's a dog sled racer, and all of the dog sled races happen when? During tax season. They accommodate her. They accommodate her solely for the fact that she is a valued employee. So, and she's not gone all the time by any means, but she has gone Thursday to Sunday, maybe 2 or 3 times during tax season, and that seems to be a very busy time for most firms. I'm not suggesting going to make demands, but just aligning yourself with a firm that kind of fits what you believe. Thanks.
Well put. It goes back to Jeff's point about there's a lot of different types of people, there's a lot of different types of firms. You got to find the right fit. I mean, and my takeaway is this: there's Aronson at 250, Santos Postal with roughly 40, and of course, Chris, your firm at under 10. There's all kinds of different firms, and yet you hear these stories. These are all excellent places to work. If you're an experienced person and you can't intern, right? You need to make a paycheck. Deeply pursue conversations with leaders at firms. They're very willing to speak with you about your career path because they, as you can tell, are looking for bright talent to join their firm. So investigate, all right, and reach out to leaders at firms and find out if it's a good fit. Just within public accounting, it's so different. What I would like to do is fire up the last polling question, and then we'll get into a couple of sort of rapid-fire questions as we're wrapping that up. But it's a little bit of an experiment here is to try to understand if you're a job seeker or you're thinking about changing jobs, what are the factors that are critical to you? I know it's kind of a simple question. Is it, are you looking for work-life balance? Are you looking, for more compensation? If you're looking for career growth or something else, just to give us kind of a large-scale look at what are the big picture you're talking about. So I would say that if a high performer, experienced candidate was considering switching careers, Jeff, Chris, and Charles, I would imagine that you and your partners would welcome opportunities to speak or correspond with people who are trying to evaluate their own careers. Would I be correct in assuming that, guys?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that anybody that could just pick up the phone and just call the front desk and they'll get you in touch with somebody. But nowadays, go to a website and see who looks good in the picture to you that you think you would be a good fit with, and just call them up and say, hey, can I talk to you on the phone just for a few minutes? And if you did that, they'll probably invite you in for just a chat. And when you're in there, and if you start mentioning once you develop a relationship, you could probably wrangle yourself into an internship. It's all about digging deeper and doing your own investigation.
I completely agree. I think it just goes without saying is deeply as you're trying to attract talent, clearly you'd welcome the opportunity for investigators to try to who are trying to figure out their own career to hear your story. Let's look at the results. Interesting. So flexibility in work-life balance, and the career path and the career trajectory for our audience appear to be the two highest criteria in their job. We hear a lot of talk about flexibility, guys. It's an interesting topic of I think something's changing in our profession, and clearly that's an important part of people who are in public. Let me ask you all one kind of wrap up question, then we'll take a couple Q&A. I'm going to skip. I'll address how candidates could apply to your firm, but I want to ask you this: what's one takeaway that you have, just in general, just the best thing about a career in small, local, regional firms? What's the best factor that's kept you in this industry as opposed to working maybe in private or in the Big Four? Just that one key takeaway from you. Jeff, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you that question first, please.
Sure. First of all, we're all in public accounting, and as I said before, it's a fabulous, challenging, interesting, satisfying profession. You get to help people with things that are very important to them. And so for an individual who's oriented to enjoy serving others, it's a fabulous profession, and it can provide that satisfaction at various sizes. I think it, as getting beyond the Big Four, where I think it's those personal relationships with your clients are certainly fewer and farther between. At firms our size, I think you have the opportunity to provide meaningful service to clients, and in a setting, in a culture that's much smaller and allows you to have ongoing good relationships with the firm that you work for. Flexibility is key. I'm sure each of my co-panelists, have the ability to make very flexible work relationships. We have every conceivable flexible arrangement under the sun, and are happy to help our employees craft them. And as I said before, I think we're big enough that we can provide some meaningful choice to candidates.
So, Chris, what's your take on the key thing that's great about working in smaller public accounting firms?
For me, it's always been the variety of work. For me, it's been the range of work. Growing up in a family accounting firm, accounting was the center of the universe, right? Accounting was the center of business. It was the center. Well, it really isn't. It's a very integral part of the business. I believe in a smaller firm, you're going to get, while you're going to be doing mostly accounting, you're going to be seeing different parts of the business come together, and you're going to have a lot more client interaction, and simply because there's just no one else to do it. Once you built the confidence, I think that that bridge comes sooner, and it's just the work diversity has always been the most attractive thing to me. Thanks.
Charles, what about you?
Well, I think that the best part I've gotten out of public accounting is the admiration that I get from my peers and my clients. Makes me want to get up and go to work every day, and I worry about them, and I take care of them, and it makes it a very fulfilling experience. I couldn't have think of anything that I would have wanted to do in my life better than have this career. It has really worked out very, very well for me.
I would add on to that the increased flexibility, increased sense of getting the full picture of the accounting spectrum, a more team-oriented environment. It's a great place to start a career. It's a great place to finish a career. I mean, you guys are living proof of that. I'm gonna ask a couple of Q&A questions. We'll take two or three if we can, and I'll address one to each of you, and if somebody would like to tack on to that, no problem. First thing is, as you see the slide, is how can candidates apply? I'll take that unless anyone wants to add. Aronson's got a profile on Accountingfly. I know that Farmand and Company and Santos Postal have websites that have job postings on them. I would encourage you to visit these the firm websites to learn more about the career opportunities, and definitely apply. And in terms of this Q&A that we'll have now, is generally, so here's the first one, guys, is generally do most smaller firms have a similar balance between audit and tax? Now, she's saying similar, and I think, Charles, she's referring to a question you asked. And I think what she's going for here is that are quote unquote smaller firms fairly balanced between audit and tax? And instead of maybe speaking for all firms, Charles, how is yours sort of set up? And is one greater than the other?
Well, I think that a general question like that, I can tell you that if you look at there's a mix of everything out there. So if you're more interested in audit, there are small firms out there that just specialize on audits. That's all they do. There's some that will just specialize all in tax. You really have to find out, what you want to do and how does that compare to what they do. We're about 60% tax and 40% A&A and advisory services, but every firm's going to have a different mix. Nowadays, because tax is so important, everybody's trying to find ways to lower their taxes, and because it's so complex, there are more opportunities in a smaller firm for tax, I think. But again, that's just a generalization. You look at the firm itself. Everybody nowadays is specializing. Find out what they specialize in.
Well put. Somebody wanted to add on to that? I think that was me.
I was just going to. This is Jeff. Our firm is fairly balanced. About 70% of our revenue is from audit and tax, and it's about equally divided between the two. And the remaining, what's approaching 30%, is consulting. So there's a fair amount of balance, and there's a fair amount of range in those. Where somewhat larger than my co-panelists, and our audit clients range from fairly small organizations to some publicly traded companies. So we have fairly deep capabilities in these areas, even though we have a somewhat different balance than say, Charles's firm.
I'm going to ask one last question as we're wrapping up. Jeff, I'm going to give this one to you and ask you for like a 1-minute answer. But I've had a couple questions asking. I'm in private, but I'm interested in coming into a regional public accounting firm. Are you guys interested in people in CPAs like me, switching from private to public? So, Jeff, why don't you take that one?
Sure. The short answer is yes, absolutely. And the reasons are a couple. One, if you've been working in private, you already have work experience. You already have some idea of what motivates you in a workplace, and you come to us as a more informed potential candidate. Perhaps with a greater level of business maturity than someone that didn't have those years of working in private. And second, because we are industry oriented, when people come to us from a particular industry wanting to go from private into public, we often find that industry experience is very valuable to get them running at a good level fairly quickly in the practices that we have. We also find also that because they have that industry experience, sometimes they can enter a consulting practice that we have around one of those industries because they have real world experience like that. So the short answer is yes, absolutely.
Well, I figured you were going to say that, but I find it interesting that people may have a block or a bias and think, hey, public's not interested in somebody who's coming from private, and I just strongly disagree with that. And I know that you guys are looking for great high performers and to encourage anyone from private to investigate making that switch, because it's a dynamic career path, and you're missing out, frankly, if you're not checking it out.
It's a different style of work, and I think in public accounting, after a while, what you become is a manager of engagements and a problem solver for your clients, and the work is challenging and not routine. And I think for people who are inspired by those sorts of things, it's a wonderful change.
I'd like to wrap things up and very quickly just let everybody know if you would like to participate in today's career fair. Think of us as sitting in a lobby right now, and the doors are opening. There are 75 accounting employers ranging from larger firms like Aronson to small firms across the United States. Check them out, investigate, ask them what's kept them in their size firm. Even if you're not a job seeker, I encourage you to have these virtual chats with these firms. I'm going to advance the slide and give you a link that you can click off of to register. It's not too late. And so while you're doing that, I'd like to kind of wrap this up. So Jeff, I thank you so much for you, Jeff, Charles, and Chris. All of you have incredibly different organizations, yet oftentimes unfairly grouped together, right? And so this is a great first step in trying to get the word out about your wonderful firms. So I want to thank you for the time, the effort you put into putting this together, and of course for being here. And I'd like to thank everybody who attended and was curious about these about regional, local, and smaller firms. This will be recorded, and we'll be happy to distribute this to the audience. So anyway, Jeff, thanks. Charles, thanks. Chris, thank you. And we're going to wrap for now. So bye for now, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.